speaking of Panthers fans having something to look forward to, Governor Henry McMaster signed this act that allowed the Panthers, specifically David Tepper, to get $30 million in incentives. And it's official. It's the Rock Hill Panthers.
Stop, man. Stop it. We're not doing this.
It's happening. How do you guys feel about this Rock Hill headquarter move? Not the stadium. Don't freak out. The headquarter move.
Yeah.
Stop, Vince. And are you okay with billionaires essentially receiving welfare?
Okay,
Welfare
so
plans?
once again, I'm
Really?
driving down the road. You know how you get a notification on Facebook and you go check it out? So I got a notification that the Panthers had some sort of red ribbon ceremony in Rock Hill, and it was like a huge festival day parade or whatnot. So I thought it was a little odd that you guys are celebrating. Like the headline said that the Panthers and South Carolina are celebrating the $1 million tax break. I didn't like that. I just thought that was a complete slap in the face of
The
residents.
citizens may not want to celebrate too quick on
But
this.
it was so many of them there.
It was packed.
It was packed.
I believe it.
It
So
was packed.
now, getting the emotional part out the way, as a citizen, I don't necessarily agree with the tax breaks for obvious reasons.
I don't.
But if I was an owner, why would I not fight for those tax breaks?
True.
But on the flip side, what a lot of people aren't realizing, and I read this literally this morning on the Charlotte Observer. So kudos to the Charlotte Observer for actually putting out legitimate news and not just clickbait.
Hyperbole.
Yeah, so apparently there's a bigger picture at play, and by them moving down there, even though he's getting a tax break, he promised South Carolina he's going to bring more business down there. He's supposed to open up like some restaurants, I think a hospital. I can't, but like
It's supposed to be like an on-site hospital.
yeah, it's like on site. So like he has promised that he's going to actually build up the infrastructure. And downtown Charlotte, they're actually in the process of doing some upgrades. Eventually, now the article didn't say this. But it alluded to that at some point the Panthers are going to move down south. It alluded to that. And when the Panthers move down south, by them removing that stadium, it's going to allow Charlotte to continue to build its infrastructure as well. So there's, I think, behind the optics of it, there's a huge play being had, and most of us just aren't seeing it. So for me, I can accept this because I'm looking more so at the business side of it and not the emotional side. But I've been screaming this since before we started this podcast. So like it's like, you know, it's the inevitable, you know?
Yeah.
I hear everything you're saying.
But
Leverage plays.
However, man, I don't want to accept the fact that the stadium could be moved to South Carolina. Well, let me back.
one team, two states.
Charlotte.
One team, both in South Carolina. Doesn't make sense.
But let me back up for a second and let me say this. Have y'all been to Rock Hill before?
Several times.
Have y'all driven through Rock Hill?
Yes.
They need something to celebrate down there.
Don't do this. Jamal, don't do this.
Regardless
Don't
of
do this. We have Rock Hill fans. Don't do this.
Sorry, Rock Hill. They know it's true. They live there. Other than the higher taxes that are coming their way, I see why it was so packed. And Vince kind of stole my thunder with, you know, the projected development, for lack of a better term, that supposedly is coming to Rock Hill. I'd be celebrating too if I lived in Rock Hill and I saw that coming. Now, the obnoxious butthole Charlotte side of me does not want to accept the fact that South Carolina is going to be way more included in the Panthers than Charlotte is eventually.
Yep.
Eventually, that stadium probably is going to move to Fort Mill, Rock Hill. I don't want to accept it. I just don't. Look, man, I'm on record as saying I wish it was the Charlotte Panthers. I want Charlotte to have its own identity. I want the profile of this city alone to be raised. It ain't even really nothing against South Carolina in any way, shape, or form, because I understand why the move was made. To talk about why the move was made, billionaires don't like. Nobody likes paying taxes. Let's be clear about that. But billionaires really don't like paying taxes. So if you get a tax break, it's a necessary move. I don't blame Tepper for it. His business acumen speaks for itself. There's nothing to really say about it. So I get it, but I just don't like it, man. I can't say I like it, man.
I don't like it either. Like $120 million to me could go to schools. The roads in South Carolina are trash.
Who's to say it won't though?
That's true. The roads are trash. And then like I just don't like. Tepper's the richest owner in the NFL. If he really wanted to build that facility down there, he could have. This is just a leverage play later on for, hey, with Ericsson Stadium, Bank of America Stadium is almost 30 years old.
Yeah.
So
Bill be my new stadium, or
I'm moving to South Carolina.
He's gone on record a few times. He said that in no way was this a leverage play to North Carolina. He is speaking this as being a purely business savvy move. That's what he's saying. So maybe I'm a little biased because
you're biased. Let me tell you why. Because any business savvy man has a leverage point. Tepper's smart.
You never show anybody your full hand.
No, you never do that.
You know what I'm saying? And I think
and then North Carolina is already
they rate plus in taxes.
Yeah, I work in South Carolina, so I pay North Carolina and South Carolina taxes.
I've been there.
Yeah. So, but what North Carolina is already doing is they're already putting money aside for this new Panther Stadium that they know is coming.
Right.
And like that kind of got me feeling away because I'm like, okay, the teachers are marching in North and South Carolina to be paid,
right? And
we're setting aside money for a stadium,
right?
And so
we really don't need.
Right now. And then who's to say 10, 15 years from now, when the cable box is 30 years old, 25 years old,
right?
Michael Jordan's like, oh, I need a new stadium. Oh, you're a losing franchise.
We don't really care about the Hornets.
We don't care about the Hornets,
right?
And so, the Panthers going to be the Carolina Hornets of Fort Mill next. I mean, it's just like
it's a little harder to go from the Charlotte Hornets to the Carolina Hornets.
The Charlotte Hornets at Fort Mill. I mean, like the Anaheim Angels.
So we could be like the New York Giants.
Yeah, like that. Yeah. I'm just not a fan of like owners extorting taxpayers. I mean, because most of the taxpayers don't care about sports.
Right.
I'm just being real about it.
It's the truth.
Most of them don't.
Yeah.
And it's just like they rather have the money allocated to parks.
The thing is, we haven't seen or heard the other side of this.
Yeah.
Meaning who isn't happy? What about the South Carolina Raiders who are not really happy about?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
so
they're not playing games down there. You just put your headquarters there. Like,
right.
I can't even walk on your headquarters. I paid for it. I can't walk on your headquarters.
Right.
Headquarters without having the proper clearance.
Right.
Like, how is this a benefit to me?
Yeah.
And then another thing is they always have these projections, but nobody talks about how those projections always fall short. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, who flips the bills for that? Taxpayers.
Yeah.
I could go on all day. I could go on all day.
Yeah. You seem kind of scared about that.
Yeah. All right.